Good evening, and welcome to tonight's live telephone town hall with Congresswoman Kaptur, your representative for the 9th District of Ohio. My name is Gordon, and I'll be moderating the conversation tonight. In a few moments, we'll be joined by the Congresswoman. Before we begin, I'd like to explain what will happen in the next hour. If at any point in tonight's call you would like to ask Congresswoman Kaptur a question, simply press *3 on your telephone keypad. You will continue to hear the town hall until one of Congresswoman Kaptur's staff members can assist you. If you don't have a chance to ask your questions during tonight's call, please note you'll be able to leave a voicemail for the Congresswoman and her staff at the end of the call simply by remaining on the line. Again, if you would like to ask Congresswoman Kaptur a question, please press *3 on your telephone keypad. With that, please welcome Congresswoman Kaptur.
Thank you, Gordon, very much. I want to say good evening to everyone in Northwest Ohio. This is Marcy Kaptur, and I want to thank you for joining us. I apologize for being a few minutes late. There's a major bill on the floor, and the majority party is not able at this moment to have a majority to move the bill forward in their own party. So the entire country is being held up here in the House right now. But I wanted to allow as much time as possible for you to share your questions, ideas, suggestions with me. So I won't make a long speech, but I do want to share a few thoughts and let you know that thousands upon thousands of our citizenry in Northwest Ohio has been calling our offices and asking for updates on what is happening here in Washington. Know that your messages, your letters, your communications are being heard, and tells me our nation's citizenry is paying close attention to what is happening here in the nation's capital, and you are true centurions at the gate of liberty. I wanted to also say there was breaking news tonight on a law that I helped write last year that became law by the end of the year, December, the Social Security Fairness Act. And today, the Social Security Administration announced that those impacted could come as soon as this month. The payments that have been held back. The law helps those that have been eligible for the windfall elimination provision and the government pension offset. So, and I'll just say this and then we'll get into the main part of the program. For now, if you are currently a recipient of Social Security in any form, you are not required to do anything. Social Security has what it needs to review your eligibility. If you are not known to Social Security, however, because you did not apply due to ineligibility under the WEP and GPO, they called it, you may call 1-800-772-1213. Most of you were public employees that worked at the federal level as well as state, and we were able to fix that law so that you will now be able to receive your Social Security payments as well. When you call 1-800-772-1213, the system will ask you, how can I help you today? All you have to say is Fairness Act to be connected to the proper Social Security officials trained to take care of your claims. Again, that number is 1-800-772-1213 if you are eligible for windfall elimination and government offset. Okay, that's all I wanted to say for now. We'll open it up to the first call. Thank you again for participating.
Just a quick reminder, you can press *3 at any time to ask a question. Up first, we have Felice in Maumee. Felice, you are live on the call.
Yeah.
Felice?
Yes. Hello.
You are live on the call.
Hi, Representative Kaptur. I'm sorry, I'm at work right now. I am an auto worker at Toledo Propulsion
Yes.
in Toledo GM. And I am seriously worried about the 25% tariff that Trump is going to enact for Canada and for Mexico. What I am worried about is my job and how it's going to impact. And I don't exactly understand how the tariffs are going to work. So every time something comes back from Canada to the United States, we're going to be tariffed on that product, right?
Right.
So
I can answer you
that's going
briefly.
to drive the cost of the car up at $9,000. So how is anybody going to be able to afford that? And please, could you tell Congressman Hakeem Jeffries, the leader of the minority leader, we need some strength. People are afraid, and I understand that Democrats like to do things the right way, but they're not following the same rules as what you are following. You're playing two different games. We need somebody to be strong right now, and we're afraid.
I hear you. First of all, thank you for calling in. There could be no more important issue to our local economy than trade with Canada. She's our largest trading partner, and these tariffs are unwarranted. I don't know where he got that idea, but he doesn't know the Great Lakes very well, but because he carried Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Indiana, I think that the president owes a second thought on this tariff issue. He lowered the tariff for Mexico to 10%, but he kept the Canadian tariff at 25%, which is going to deeply harm our automotive industry because a part can move across the border 6 times, as you well know. And so we have to prevent what he is proposing from happening, and that will take legislation here in Congress. Believe me, ma'am, it's on my mind. I co-chair the Auto Caucus. Republicans and Democrats work together on this, but right now we're stymied because we don't even have a budget for this year. And that's why we're here so late tonight trying to vote tonight. But if you watch the stock market, which has not been good for several days now, that is largely due to his tariff proposal. So we can't have that. So you and I are on the same side. You know I support you. I'm proud of you. I'm from a UAW family, mother and father, and I know what's at stake here. So we hope to turn back that proposal with the help of a majority of members. I'm happy to come out to your plant, by the way, and work with you on the line. If somebody will invite me, I'll come.
Up next, we have one of our questions from an online listener. Celine Heminger, who's listening on online, says, I am very concerned about the tax breaks for the rich and taking away services for the disenfranchised in the middle class.
Thank you very much for sending in that message. You are absolutely right. The proposal that is in this bill that we're voting on tonight, unless they pull it, because right now they don't have the votes. We were supposed to have it much earlier in the day. They can't get the votes. The majority of the money will go, I call it a bonanza for billionaires. And people who are at the lower end of the income scale, like $28,000 per year, their taxes are going to increase $1,530. But if you earn over $1 million, you are going to get a bonanza of $320,000. In a return, this is crazy. It's upside down. So that's what we're fighting about. And I will be honest with you, on the Republican side of the aisle, they don't have the votes to pass this budget bill. So we will see what happens. And that's why I was late getting on the call, because we thought we were going to have a vote, and they've been delaying it for several hours now.
Up next, we have Brian in White House. Brian, you are live on the call.
Hi, Congressman Kaptur. Thank you for taking my question. I'm just kind of curious with the sea lamprey cuts that have gone down in Lake Superior, if everything is going to be in place with what you've done to keep our waterways clean here in relative nature to Lake Erie, as well as the fishery, that we have to offer.
Thank you. First of all, thank you for caring about our beautiful lakes. Thank you so much. We must have a majority of our people focus on Lake Erie, but our Great Lakes in total. I just want to say we've just received word that the Republicans have pulled their budget bill from the floor. They do not have any votes, enough votes to pass it. So we can go on with this call, thank goodness. In terms of the sea lamprey, it's one of the critters that we want to get out of the lake, our lakes. We have to control it, working with all of our Fish and Wildlife Services and all the wonderful Americans who are being threatened with losing their jobs, and yet they take care of all of us and our national assets. What we had today was a hearing with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. It's a committee that I'm the top member of my party on, and I asked about several projects, one being the Brandon Road barrier in Illinois, in order to prevent the Asian carp from coming into the Great Lakes and killing our $7 billion fishery in Lake Erie and all of the boating industry and the harbors and everything, the Army Corps has agreed to come to Toledo and to do a major briefing for us on these environmental challenges to our region. We also got the commitment of the Corps because most of the fresh water that is ingested in our region comes through the Toledo water plant. And we got their commitment this morning to move forward on the $10 million I was able to get in the budget for helping our city develop a second water inlet. The one that we have now is 20 feet below the surface, and when the water blows toward the Buffalo, there can be moments when our water intake is way too shallow. And so we are looking toward the 21st century and how better to equip our area to provide fresh, clean water to all of our people. So we are doing number one, trying to keep the Asian carp out. We're trying to control the grass carp. And then for the barrier in Illinois, we got a commitment for them to extend the dollars that we passed. As you know, this is a new administration and certain people aren't in place in the agency. So some of those engineers and so forth have to be hired. We also talked about the dredging on the southern rim of Lake Erie and trying to repurpose that soil. And that's a whole long speech, but we are going to bring in the Corps to deal with that so the people in our region can be the best managers and keepers of our corner of the universe. And we have the largest watershed in the Great Lakes. We have the most arable land. We can feed ourselves. We can survive in our region. But my last thing I want to say on this is I hope when spring comes, everyone will work with our local foresters and plant trees this year around our region, whether it's Point Place, whether it's out in some of our forested areas in the western part of the state. We want people to plant more trees to help hold the water, to deal with some of the other flooding challenges we've had, and produce good, clean oxygen for our people. Thank you.
Up next, we have Janine Sunderland. Janine, you are live on the call.
Hi.
Hi, Janine.
How are you?
Fine. Where are you from? Which town are you from?
I live in Maumee. I deliver mail in White House, Ohio. And you actually met my daughter at Anthony Wayne High School. I'm the FFA.
Yeah, I love FFA. Thank you for being a good mother. But I'm here to answer your question or give me your comment.
My question is about what they're doing with the Postal Service. I'm a rural carrier out of White House, and they have us really scared with the privatization of it, as well as they're talking about cutting pay and increasing our benefits.
Thank you for calling in today. The post office is deep in my heart. I used to be an urban carrier. I even passed the post office driving test that they gave us. So the man who gave me the idea to create the World War II Memorial that 100 million people have now visited here in our nation's capital was a letter carrier out of Berkey, Ohio. And the post office as a service is written into the Constitution. And this is a constitutional issue. It will go to the Supreme Court if they choose to behave as they have. My deep worry is that the man who's headed the Postal Service for a number of years has left it now, but he's a private entrepreneur who may, because he has truck fleets, I'm concerned he wants to turn his knowledge into private profit for himself. The Postal Service belongs to the people of the United States. You have the best rates in the country, and you also deliver to the most remote places. That will not happen if the Postal Service is privatized. So whatever modernization needs to occur, I hope that the Board of Directors of the Postal Service will work with us in Congress to do the best we can for you. We were able to help the retirement program several years ago, and be aware that I very much support you and what you are trying to do. 1/3 of the people that work at the post office are also veterans. I respect that, and they will have a real fight on their hands if they try to privatize the Postal Service.
Up next, we have Darcy in Toledo. Darcy, you are live on the call.
Well, good evening, Congresswoman Kaptur.
Hi, Darcy.
Thank you.
Hi. Thanks for calling.
You're so welcome. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you for waiting. Thank you for waiting.
My pleasure. Well, I'm speaking as one of our senior citizens, and we would like to hear what is being done to secure Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and veterans benefits.
Okay, that's an important question. And as I just mentioned with an earlier caller, for those who are eligible for the windfall elimination and the government pension offset, Social Security just announced today, breaking news, that people can apply for their eligibility, and they will be receiving their checks. We didn't expect to have this Biden program that those of us who supported him wrote into law and then passed, but it is coming due now, and people can call if they are not known to Social Security, 1-800-772-1213. That's 1-800-772-1213 to become registered to receive those benefits that they have earned. In terms of Social Security and Medicare, what we have to do is we have to keep people employed in this country, because Social Security is an earned benefit, and so is Medicare. And we don't want to go into recession. We want to be able to help the trust funds to grow. So unemployment is our biggest enemy, and that's been true over the years. We were able to replenish Social Security with quite a large infusion of funds a few years ago, and that has helped a great deal. But I am not someone who wants to privatize or to undermine Social Security and Medicare, and we're on the road to strengthening this. But if this group that couldn't pass a budget tonight, they need to put Social Security and Medicare into a primary position in terms of issues that they're going to address, and to make sure that it's fully funded. And believe me, over 170,000 people in our district or more depend on those benefits. So I am someone who supports those, and the best solution is to make sure people are working and contributing into the fund. And if there is a shortage, then we have to look at other choices to add revenue, but not to privatize the system. This belongs to the American people. It is an earned benefit. It is not a subsidy program.
Next, we're going to go to another one of our questions from one of our online audio stream listeners. We have Leah Wusher, who asks, is Congress going to denounce Trump's support of Russia?
Well, thank you for that question. We had a major press conference here in Washington yesterday. I will make sure everyone on the line receives the speeches that each of us made. And what happened yesterday at the United Nations, this week at the United Nations, was a terrible moment in U.S. history and world history, because the United States voted with North Korea and Russia to support with Belarus, with Russia and North Korea to support Russia. So rather than, that has never happened since World War II. And it was a very serious vote at the United Nations. And I think that President Macron's trip to meet with President Trump was a good idea, but it is extremely troubling. And never before has the United States stood with the tyranny of Russia. And so this is something that the American people have to pay very close attention to as we try to, I think they're going to make us move to a different room.
You got it.
Vote. Excuse me, I have to cast my vote, so I'm going to have to put my staff on the phone just for a second to answer your question, and I'll be right back.
Just be patient. It will just take a minute.
Okay, I'm so sorry. Now I'm back. We will try to get information to you on the vote in the United Nations.
Up next, we have David in Toledo. David, you are live on the call.
Miss Kaptur?
Yes, David.
Hey, I am David Schertz. I am a local 351 union carpenter, vice president and delegate for our local union. I know absolutely that you are in support of our union of life.
Yes, sir.
It's really clear that we are under attack. It's been through our pensions and our whole way of life. I just want to assure that you have our support as long as you fight for our right, for our way of life.
Well, first of all, thank you for being a union carpenter. I congratulate you for your skill, for the trade, for the hard work that you do, and all of your colleagues. You tell them that for me, okay? And I will fight for you as hard as I know how to fight. And I have, I think, a perfect labor record through my whole career. I come from a laboring family. I know how hard they worked. And our mother actually helped to found the United Auto Workers in our region. And our father retired from Jeep. My brother was an AFSCME member as a highly skilled mechanic and helped save lives his whole life throughout our region. So I understand what you're saying, and there are a lot of people. You've worked for that money, and you've worked hard, and you've earned it, and no one should take it away. We've had many, many votes here in Congress to protect pensions, and we've even saved pensions for companies that walked away from their responsibilities. For example, with the Butch-Lewis Act that passed a few years ago that impacted over 80,000 Ohioans, miners and truckers, many Teamsters, some of our iron workers. So we stand up for hardworking men and women. Sir, thank you for calling in, and if we can help you on any specific issue that you have, you call us.
Up next, we have Sean from Danbury. Sean, you are live on the call.
All right. Good evening, and thank you, Congresswoman, for taking my call.
Thank you for waiting. I'm so sorry for this crazy schedule here.
No problem. No problem. So mine is a very large question. I think we touched a few pieces of it. What is the strategy to keep all of our federal agents being dismantled by executive order?
Well, it's a national tragedy. It's never happened before. But what is going on is that the states are taking the federal government and this administration to court, and many of the rulings that came from executive order have been overturned now. So also the administration is learning that you just can't do things illegally. And so, for instance, my committee, we worry about nuclear safety around the country, and they had gotten rid of hundreds of employees until they were told by the courts, guess what? You can't do that. Nuclear security is more important than you. And so those people have to be put back to work. And that's been happening across the government. I think one thing will help is when the administration has all of its people actually in place so they're not depending on these willy-nilly decisions by unelected people and unappointed people who've been vetted through the FBI from taking private records of people, basically spying on people's private papers at the Department of Treasury, for example. So I'm thinking, the law will work, but we have to be vigilant and the American people are seeing what's happening. And that is a huge pressure. They're going to meetings in their districts and so forth. I'll have several meetings in my own district once we're out of Congress to take people's questions and kind of bring them up to date on each agency. But they just can't confuse everything and make it hard for the American people to work. All these thousands of people that are so-called being furloughed and all, that's illegal. So, but it's going to take a little while for it to settle down. And you can see the stock market, if you want a reading on how are we doing or not doing, look at the stock and bond markets the last week or so. Very unsteady. That has to work itself out so that it begins to be steady again. The country doesn't like all this upset. They really don't.
Up next, we have Ann from Perrysbury Township. Ann, you are live on the call.
Hi, Representative Kaptur. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you for calling in. Thank you for calling in.
Oh, my pleasure. I have spent the last 30 years as a dental hygienist working in the Toledo area. 80% of our patients are Medicaid. So, yes, we do see some abuse. You know, any program there's going to be a little abuse. But we're so afraid for these kids that desperately need these dental care. I mean, you know, just to stay in school sometimes. They can't go to school with toothaches. What are you doing?
Thank you for calling in.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. So I'm just curious, what are you doing to try to stop the assault on Medicaid, and what can I do from my end to help?
Well, what I'm doing is I am voting against cuts to Medicaid. And if they give this bonanza to billionaires, which is what is at the bottom of this bill we are voting on, it will require cuts in Medicaid, and I will vote no. Because it will affect, oh my gosh, in my district, in our district, 170,000 people. A majority of our people use Medicaid, and for their families, many seniors do, children, just what you're saying. So we are fighting, I'm fighting against the budget resolution that would cut Medicaid. So I am voting your interest.
Up next, we have Loretta in Walbridge. Loretta, you are live on the call.
Hi. Hi, Marcy. I just wanted to say I have been a supporter of yours for over 40 years. I remember meeting you for the first time at a parade in Point Place. I worked for the post office for over 30 years, and bless your heart, you have done a marvelous job. My question was going to be about the proposed budget that I knew was coming up. But since that has passed, how is that going to affect this government shutdown that's looming?
Well, they're connected. If by March 14th, first of all, the majority party is 6 months late in getting their budget done for the fiscal year that we are in. So it's very confusing. By March 15th, March 14th in the evening, and we have to have a budget. While I'm talking to you, I'm actually running to the floor now to vote no on the budget resolution that is up there, because it would hurt people across our region in every sector, in health, in education, in food programs. Oh my goodness. So I'm going to cast that vote now, but I don't know if I'll be on the winning side. And then the Senate and House have to negotiate any differences they might have. But right now I'm putting my card in the actual voting place, and I am voting no in order to protect the people that I represent, their health benefits, their Social Security benefits, because the bill they're passing is a bonanza for billionaires. The wealthy will get over $300,000 each, and I'm talking people who earn over $1 million. And the people at the lower end of the income scale are going to have their taxes go up, if you really read the fine print. So I just went and I voted no on the budget resolution that they just put on the floor.
Up next, we have Lucia in Oregon. Lucia, you are live on the call.
Yes, hello. Good evening, Congressman Kaptur.
Hi, Nick. Where are you from?
Oregon, Ohio.
Oregon. Okay.
Yes, I'm a senior citizen. I'm so grateful to you for offering this program. I did want to say also, I want to thank you so much for your support for the Social Security windfall work that you have done. I'm going to be a recipient of that if it ever goes through. So
it's gone through. It's gone through.
Oh, wonderful.
And in fact, are you registered with Social Security?
I am, but I am going to call that number that you gave us out earlier just to make sure that I'm in the loop there. As I think everyone else, if they have any question about it in their minds, they should call that number and be sure that they're included. I wanted to say a caller before myself did bring up, the subject of Ukraine was discussed, and I'm so very concerned about that because I think the writing was on the wall when Ukraine was not invited to the talks in Saudi Arabia. And it comes as no surprise to any of us that it looks like they're trying to be chopping up the country, and United States is even supposed to get a piece of the pie, but I think we all can kind of guess that'll be handed over to Putin, Trump's comrade in arms. And I was just wondering, you also mentioned that there was a tally taken just very recently, and the United States was with Russia and North Korea.
Yes, for the first time since World War II. For the first time since World War II. With North Korea, with Hamas, with Belarus. I mean, terrible. I'm ashamed of our vote.
Country stands on that.
We held a major press conference yesterday, and myself, along with almost 20 other members, made a lot of statements about Ukraine, about that vote in the United Nations, and we are very pleased to be able to send that to you. So make sure you leave us your phone number.
Up next, we have Paul in Sylvania. Paul, you are live on the call.
Oh, good evening, Congresswoman Kaptur. How are you doing tonight?
Hi, Paul. It's a crazy night because we're voting while I'm trying to talk to you. This wasn't supposed to happen, so I hope you can hear me.
Okay, I can hear you loud and clear. My question is quite simple. As you know, I'm 62 years old, and this is the most crazy times of my life looking at what's happening here. And I'm an engineer in the area, but my question is in regards to the Inflation Reduction Act that was put into law in 2022 and signed by Biden. And as you know, it really helps out Northwest Ohio quite a bit with our solar industry here. And recently, Donald Trump has signed an executive order. He said he was pausing the funding for the IRA and also canceling the wind portion, the windmills as he calls them. What I'm curious about is the support in Congress, since the solar plants that First Solar has benefits Ohio, which is a red state, Alabama, red state, and Louisiana, a red state. I'm curious, because he can't overturn a law. That's what I want to know first. The Congress would have to overturn it. And the funding is controlled by Congress, or at least it used to be. So I want to make sure he can't do that. And then I want to know, what the support is with the Republican representatives and senators from those three states.
Well, first of all, thank you for being an engineer. America needs great engineers. We are moving into a new era. We've got more people, and we need to be more efficient at what we do, including in energy. Life depends on fresh water, energy, and food, all of which we can do in our area if we but pay attention. On the energy issue, you are correct. The president cannot kill a program without Congress. We have to be able to vote Today we had energy hearings in my own committee looking toward next year's budget, which will start on October 1st. And it's a new president. He's, trying to work things through, but he hasn't sent his budget up yet. And he is doing things that are illegal. And these are being taken to court by many, many organizations across the United States. In most instances, his decisions are being overturned. In other words, they're not being accepted. But in a few, the IRA will have to be implemented. I don't think he's going to be able to abrogate Congress's authority in that. We have in Article 1 of the Constitution, we especially in the House have the ability to appropriate, and he just can't come in and pull the rug out from what was decided by a Congress before he ever got there. He can't do that. He can submit a new budget. He can try to send up bills to cut programs, but he's got to go through the regular legal process. And that is working out. You probably saw 27 states are contesting various decisions that he's made in the courts, and he's being overturned.
We are running near the end of our time. We have time for one more question, but I do want to remind everyone that if you don't have a chance to ask your question, you can leave a voicemail at the end of the call. Next, we're going to go to one of our online questions for the last question, and this comes from Janice Flahif, who asks, how are you doing your best to reach across the aisle and work for the common good when there is so much polarization in the House of Representatives?
Thank you for the question. Well, I just finished talking to 2 Republicans from Utah and 1 from South Carolina. Believe me, there are people here that want to work together and do work together. It hardly gets any publicity. This morning, the committee that I'm on, the chairman, Mr. Fleischman from Oak Ridge, Tennessee, and I, we have a phenomenal personal relationship. All the members of our committee, regardless of what our point of view is, we get along, we produce our bills, we do our job. When you do your job around here, you don't get any credit. When you cause a lot of trouble, the press pays attention. That's one of the disadvantages of the media, actually. They like controversy more than they like cooperation. But I am hopeful that we will be able to have a working majority, committee by committee, and keep working across the aisle. Most of the bills that I pass are bipartisan, so every member has to speak for themselves. But I do believe that we have some members that should seek another occupation because there's just a lot of commotion, but no real constructive effort on behalf of the country. And every congressional district, and we have 435 of them, the public has to hold their officials accountable.
Unfortunately, that is all the time we have for questions this evening. As I mentioned, if you didn't have a chance to ask your question, please note you can leave a voicemail for the Congresswoman and her staff simply by remaining on the line. With that, I'll turn it back over to Congresswoman Kaptur for some closing remarks.
I just want to thank everyone for participating this evening. Thank you for your thoughtful questions. You give me great hope for our region and for our country. Let's continue working together for positive good in our region and for our country as a whole. It is a serious and important time, and one in which people across the aisle and people of no political persuasion can work together for the common good. And that, in the end, is what we are sworn to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Thank you so very much for joining tonight.